In this video, we're going to be talking about 3 habits that a dismissive avoidant should drop in 2024 in order to move closer to a secure attachment style. The thing about dismissive avoidance is that y'all tend to hold a lot of shame and guilt towards yourself and have a wound of feeling as if there's something wrong with you. So before we even begin the video, I want to make a distinction that some of these things that I'm mentioning you can work on are behaviors that do not define your worth. Just because you're making a mistake or did a quote-unquote bad thing doesn't mean that you're a bad person. So without further ado, let's move on to step number 1. Avoid isolating yourself whenever you're feeling stressed. Now, one of the most popular coping mechanisms that I see within my dismissive avoidant clients is avoidance, right? This is isolating themselves from other people, being hyper independent, thinking that you gotta do everything on your own. And I hear you. You're probably doing this because you learned that it is safe for you to rely on yourself because you never felt like you can trust that you can rely on other people. However, when you're isolating yourself, not only can it feel very lonely, but it can also unintentionally hurt the people that you love around you. Life is about nurturing those connections and being able to share and be vulnerable with each other, which I know sounds like something that you don't want to do right now. However, when you think about the greatest scientists or the most successful people out there, they're not doing it alone. In fact, they have a team behind them that's helping them with ideas. They're utilizing their own skill sets and trying to help you out in areas that you might lack. Because when you go alone, you might go fast, but when you go together, you go far. And so if you're really trying to have healthy relationships and overall improve your life, it is essential that you don't continuously isolate yourself when you're feeling stressed. Instead of withdrawing and pushing other people away, take some time to process, self-soothe, and also try to take incremental steps to be vulnerable and reach out to other people. If you never open that door for yourself, you're never going to be able to challenge that thought that maybe you could rely on other people. Maybe you don't have to do every single little thing alone. And once you continuously take those steps to be vulnerable, share a little bit here and there, feel safe to ask for help, then life feels a lot more easier and less stressful. But moving on to point number 2, don't immediately push your emotions away whenever you're feeling upset or anxious or any negative emotion that you don't want to feel. Now, for most of us to have an insecure attachment style, whether it's fearful avoidant or anxious attachment style, we tend to have a negative relationship with conflict. And it's because growing up we've associated conflict with feeling unsafe, feeling unstable, and quote unquote danger. And so when conflict comes up, the anxious attachment style usually feels really anxious about it and wants to fix it right away. But if you're dismissive avoidant, you probably find yourself pushing it away and telling yourself it's not a big deal. But what a lot of people aren't telling you is that when you continuously push your emotions away over and over and over again, you either, number 1, forget what your emotions feel like because you're so used to pushing it away and you're starting to feel numb, or you either push your emotions and conflicts away until one day you say, I can't take it no more, you feel angry, resentment, and you decide to ghost or cut the other person off. And when it comes to building healthy relationships, this behavior only leads to self-sabotage. And it can feel very unfair for the other person because A, they didn't know that that was bothering you because you didn't communicate it, and B, now they're wondering why you cut them off when maybe it wasn't their intentions to do some of the behaviors that you were triggered by. Instead of keeping it in, saying it's not a big deal, people pleasing, or trying to ignore it, make sure that you're actively communicating with your partner or other people around you instead of avoiding vulnerability. And not only that, but make sure you're taking those incremental steps to feel your emotions, to recognize, what am I feeling in this moment? And if you're so used to pushing your emotions away that you're not even sure how you feel at this point, I want you to take notice of how your body physically feels, because a lot of times we store emotions in our body, and even if we're logically not sure what's going on, we will always feel it within our body. So take time to be attuned to how your body's feeling. Is your chest tight? Is your throat tight? Do you have some stress in your jaw where it's locked or your shoulders tense? And once you familiarize yourself with being attuned to your body, listening to yourself, seeing where it's stressed or you're holding in those emotions, then you can slowly start identifying what you're feeling, which will eventually lead to revealing what your emotions are. And from there, take those steps to self-soothe. If you're not sure where to start and you don't know how to process your emotions healthily, make sure you grab my template here. It's the self-love inner child exercise ebook that I have. And this is the same process that I teach my clients on how to process your emotions healthily and regulate your emotions so you don't react right away or you don't shut down right away. So if you want to dive more in depth, make sure you click the link in my bio to access this template. It's very affordable. It's only $5. It will help immensely, especially when you need to self-regulate before setting boundaries or having a difficult conversation with your partner. And number 3, the third thing that you want to stop avoiding is using physical intimacy to replace emotional intimacy. Now, I might be calling some of y'all out right now, but for those of y'all who find yourself hooking up or using sex as a way to escape and connect to the other person, it's important for you to know that physical intimacy is not going to fulfill that need of connection as much as emotional intimacy does. So if you're finding yourself having sex or being physically intimate with your partner instead of actually communicating and talking whenever there's conflict, that's a problem. Because while yes, you're being intimate with them in one aspect, you're essentially ignoring the root of the issue. And what ends up happening is it's almost like mold, right? It grows and it grows and it starts to infect the whole fruit. You might not even notice it at first because you see the different side of the fruit, and then you turn it around and you see a whole bunch of fuzz. And at that point, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I've been blindsided. Why is there still mold growing? Why isn't things getting resolved? And it's because the time while you were being physically intimate and trying to connect with your partner and make things better and make them feel better, that was a temporary solution or distraction to what was actually going on. So I'm not saying being physical intimate is a bad thing, but make sure you're not using that as a replacement for emotional intimacy. Instead of resorting to physical intimacy or distractions or isolating yourself, make sure you're taking time to listen to your partner, figure out what your partner needs, what you need, and communicate and set boundaries together. The more you practice setting up a safe space, the easier it'll become step by step. And when you're going on your growth journey and you're thinking about all these things that you want to improve, not only can it feel very difficult and overwhelming because you don't know where to start, but B, it may make you avoid this video as a whole because you're thinking, oh my goodness, is there something wrong with me? There's so many things to work on. At the end of the day, we all make mistakes. And the fact that you're here watching this video to confront some of these behaviors so you can build a healthier lifestyle shows a lot of courage, especially for the dismissive avoidant. So if you're ready to make 2024 your year, if you're ready to level up and grow and make sure that you're building and cultivating healthy romantic and platonic relationships, book a one-on-one session with me and we can talk about your next steps in depth. But comment down below which of these points resonated with you. Subscribe, and as always, you got this.